My husband had an affair with his receptionist, and my entire family sided with him. Years later, they're desperately begging to be part of my life again. But my response left them speechless 5 years ago. My world fell apart when I discovered my then-husband, Nick, was having an affair with his office receptionist. We had been childhood sweethearts. Our parents were close family friends, so we grew up together, dated on and off after high school, and eventually married at 22 under heavy pressure from both families. We had been together nearly a decade before the wedding, but marriage only made things worse. We argued constantly, yet the idea of infidelity never crossed my mind. Apparently, it crossed his. I had suspected something for months. One night, I finally checked his phone and found everything I needed to know. The marriage was over that instant. Devastated, I packed a bag and drove straight to my parents' house, thinking they would take me in until I could figure things out. By the time I arrived, Nick had already called them. He had guessed where I'd go and begged them not to let me stay. They listened to him. I stood on their doorstep in tears, pleading to be allowed inside just for a few days, but they refused. They knew about the affair. Nick had admitted it to them, but told me marriage was a two-person commitment and that I should go back and work it out. They blamed me for the failure of the relationship, repeating the same things they'd said for years. I was too career-focused, too ambitious, never dedicated enough to being a wife. I left that night and crashed with a close friend who took me in without hesitation. For the next few weeks, while I consulted lawyers, filed for divorce, and hunted for an apartment, my friends were my only support system. My parents and Nick kept contacting me, insisting counseling could fix everything and that I was overreacting. I blocked them all. Once the divorce was final, I cut contact completely. We'd occasionally cross paths at family gatherings, but we acted like strangers. Fast forward 5 years. I'm now happily married to Charlie, the love of my life. We met 3 years ago when he approached me at his own restaurant. I didn't realize he was the owner until later. We clicked instantly, dated, and fell deeply in love. Charlie comes from a successful family. His father owns one of the largest bakery chains in the state. But money was never a factor for me. I'm independent, career-driven, and have always planned to keep working after marriage. Everything was peaceful until I announced our engagement on social media. Within days, I received an email from my parents, the first contact in half a decade. They congratulated me, apologized for the past, and said they wanted to be part of my wedding to make amends. They didn't mention Charlie's background at first, which I found suspiciously calculated. I ignored the message. A second email arrived shortly after, and this time they revealed their true colors. They gushed about how impressed they were with Charlie and his prestigious family, saying they were so proud I was marrying into such wealth and status. It was painfully obvious why they had suddenly resurfaced. I blocked them again. A few days later, they showed up uninvited at the apartment Charlie and I share. I have no idea how they found the address. Charlie answered the door, recognized them immediately from everything I'd told him, and stayed by my side the entire time, holding my hand. My parents launched into another apology, claiming they had always wanted to reach out but were afraid. I told them firmly that 5 years was more than enough time to reflect, that I didn't need them anymore, and asked them to leave. My father lost it. He screamed that I had become arrogant and full of myself simply because I was marrying into money. Then they turned to Charlie and warned him that my attitude problem was the reason my first marriage failed, that Nick was now happily married to the receptionist with a child, while I was supposedly too superior and work-obsessed to ever keep a man. Charlie shut them down instantly. He told them he didn't need relationship advice from people who abandoned their daughter when she needed them most, that he was proud of his success, and I was welcome to brag about it if I wanted, and that even combined, my ex and my parents didn't come close to our net worth. Then he closed the door in their faces while they shouted outside. The next morning, my paternal grandparents called, furious. They lectured me about disrespect, said Charlie's money comment was humiliating, and insisted I owed my parents an apology. They claimed my parents had only ever tried to do their best for me and that I was ungrateful. When I pointed out everything that had happened, they dismissed it and said a man who disrespects my family would never respect me. Then they hung up. A week later, after I ignored and blocked everyone, my grandparents created a new email account. They wrote that they were deeply disappointed, that staying neutral for 5 years had been a mistake, and that my parents had been right all along. I did have an attitude problem that needed fixing. It was clear whose side they had always been on. 3 days ago, my parents showed up again while Charlie was out. I refused to open the door at first and threatened to call the police. Eventually, I stepped outside to speak briefly. This time they were subdued. They apologized sincerely, or at least as sincerely as they're capable of, saying they realized they had mishandled everything, that they had been prideful and wrong, especially during the divorce, and that they would wait as long as it took, even a lifetime, for my forgiveness. My mother cried. They admitted they had been confused and manipulated into believing I was the problem. I told them calmly that the past couldn't be undone, that I needed space, and that maybe, one day in the future I would reach out, but for now, they needed to leave me alone. They left quietly. Charlie and I got married last week. It was beautiful. None of my immediate family was invited or attended. A couple of days later, my parents called from an unknown number just to say they had heard about the wedding through relatives, that they were happy for me, and wished me well in my new life. I'm not ready to let them back in, and I may never be, but at least the constant fighting has stopped. We're keeping things distant and neutral, and for now, that's more than enough. I have Charlie, his wonderful family, my friends, and a life I'm proud of. That's all I need. Thank you for watching my story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and press the bell icon. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, get more experiences.